This is the MTN 9 o'clock news.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Andrea Lutz. A lot developing across the state of Montana tonight, including this. Critics out in full force as Montana works toward implementing legalized sports betting. So we're taking a closer look. Plus, marred by tragedy, a Navy veteran launches his campaign to challenge Steve Daines for the Senate in 2020. That story is ahead. But we begin tonight in Bozeman, where campus is back to normal tonight at Montana State University after a security threat forced police to lock facilities down as they search for a man said to have guns. Well, the former employee is in custody tonight in Gallatin County after police were forced to lock the campus down at the report of threats to, quote, end it all by that man. MTN's Cody Boyer was on scene as it all unfolded.
In the end, about 2 hours after this all started, campus police say they found the man here inside Norm Asbjornson Hall. Now, MSU Police Chief Frank Parrish says this began with a social media post from an employee, a current employee here on campus.
MSU Police received a report of a threat made by an MSU employee.
After that, officers moved quickly, locking all buildings and immediately started looking for the man behind it.
The suspect stated to a family member that he was ready to end it all, and he has all of his guns loaded, and he was ready to take out anyone with him.
Agents from across the area rallied, working through the county 911 center and the emergency alert system. The suspect was nowhere to be found, but just minutes before had been at the campus police station.
In this particular case, we didn't know where the suspect was. We knew he was on campus because he came by about 20 minutes prior to that and bought a parking pass. He was also scheduled for a 2 o'clock meeting, a dismissal hearing. He was an employee going through the disciplinary process.
And according to Chief Parrish, the man was possibly armed with several guns.
We were told that the suspect had 2 shotguns and a rifle. We have not recovered those at this time, but that's all the information that we have on that. He was not armed at the time he was taken into custody.
Police worked quickly, using the county emergency alert system and sending text alerts out to students and staff, putting the university into shelter-in-place mode, something both campus officials and all police agencies involved say might have changed how this played out.
The joint operation with the county 911 center allowed us to dispatch units from all over the county instantaneously, something that in the past we didn't have the capability of doing.
The emergency alert system is absolutely vital. I mean, in a situation where we've got something fast-moving happening, we want to be able to get that information out quickly.
And with that, the shelter in place was lifted. No one was hurt, and the man was sent to the Gallatin County Detention Center. Without the help of technology and teamwork, Chief Parrish says this could have ended much differently.
They followed the procedures that we trained them in doing. They listened to the emergency alert. I'd also like to really thank leadership here at MSU, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to put these security measures in place that I believe makes MSU very safe.
Investigators are still looking for the weapons that Chief Parrish does confirm that this man had access to. Police also impounded his car in a parking lot near Norm Asbjornson Hall, also here on campus in Bozeman. Cody Boyer, MTN News.
A busy day in Bozeman for sure. Thanks for an update on that, Cody. A Montana native and Navy veteran officially announces his intent to run for Senate, but his name doesn't come without some controversy. In June, tragedy struck for Democrat John Muse when filming for a promotional campaign video turned into the drowning of his photographer on Canyon Ferry Lake. Muse is a high school teacher in Fort Belknap, also worked as an engineer for an oil company.
Steve Daines voted for a massive tax cut on multinational corporations and America's wealthiest families. One of the biggest beneficiaries of that was foreign investors. But what happened? That tax cut blew a multi-trillion-dollar hole through the nation's pocketbook.
And if he gets the nomination, he'll face off against Senator Steve Daines. Well, with the highest population of homeless families in the state, Missoula leaders hope to change that with the addition of a brand new shelter. The YWCA wants to build a 37,000 square foot facility to provide emergency housing for families with children. The facility will also provide support to survivors of domestic violence. And officials say there's 50 families on Missoula streets waiting for shelter.
Homelessness is so disruptive in children's lives, and in fact it can have impacts that last a lifetime. We know that even some of the parents and the families that we're serving, when they were children, were experiencing housing instability, and it has had an impact that perpetuates generational poverty and homelessness.
So they hope to open that shelter on West 3rd Street by the end of 2020. Montana health officials are considering a rule to require all public schools in the state to test their drinking water for lead. Those in Helena met to discuss some possible changes. Some claim that lead can linger in the body, causing long-lasting health effects, especially in children. Well, today the Office of Public Instruction expressed concerns about a lack of transparency with this new proposed rule.
Discuss the impacts, discuss how we can manage getting from point A to point B in making sure that our students are safe. But being excluded from a conversation is what has happened. That lack of transparency, that lack of conversation is poor leadership and very poor government. That's not what I was elected to do. That's not what our schools and our communities expect.
Okay, and OPI requested an extension to allow schools, stakeholders, and communities to fully understand the rules and provide comment. Well, the state lottery is working to implement legal sports betting in Montana, using the Montana Lottery as the contractor for the betting. But as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, the process so far is not without its critics and concerns.
The 2019 state legislature legalized sports betting in Montana and put the lottery in charge of regulating it and rolling it out within a year. At a meeting of the State Lottery Commission Thursday, staff summarized 18 pages of draft rules that define things like who can play and where they can place bets. Commission Chairman Wilbur Raymond said he also wants the rules and the lottery to address a seedier side of sports betting, point shaving by athletes.
I just want to make sure we're looking at the possibility of impact on high school students, college students in terms of playing sports. The lure is so great for the cash involved in sports betting.
The lottery plans to have public hearings on the proposed rules soon. Also Thursday, the lottery's decision to have its current contractor, Intralot, run the sports wagering in Montana came in for some criticism. Lobbyists representing the state gaming industry and gambling machine operators said members of their industry should get to bid on the contract.
Awarding a contract worth $4.5 to $6.1 million over the next 4 years each year to a company on a no-bid contract. I'm hearing rumblings from within the industry that should the commission go ahead and just do a no-bid contract with Intralot, that you could have some litigation over that.
We have members that are very interested in bidding the lottery contract. These companies have more experience in the United States sports betting market than Intralot does. And we feel that in order to obtain the best provider for Montana, the lottery needs to go through the full RFP process.
State Lottery Director Angela Wong said the lottery will take the time it needs to get things right for sports betting in Montana. But the commission would have to decide whether to put the brakes on the process and seek a new contract. The next step? Lottery staff will continue working on the rules, and unless there's a change of heart on the commission about the contract, sports betting in Montana could be underway later this year. In Helena, I'm Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Legalization of sports betting in Montana and other states come in the wake of a U.S. Supreme Court decision allowing it. More information tonight on how to stay safe when summer lightning and thunderstorms move in. Lightning deaths are rare, but they do happen, and in Montana, most outdoor recreation areas have an alert system for when storms threaten the area. Well, experts say when a storm does hit, try to get inside. But if you can't do that, avoid trees and get to the lowest place you can find.
You don't need to wait for the rain or to see the lightning, because lightning can actually strike over 10 miles from the thunderhead. So when you hear thunder, you know that there's thunder in the area, and that's the time to start taking preventive measures.
And remember, if you are in a group, spread out to avoid strikes traveling if a person does get struck with lightning. Well, new information tonight on bear activity this summer in Montana, as wildlife officials say more huckleberries mean bears aren't seeking food elsewhere, like your garbage can. So if you do meet a black bear, you should respond differently than you would if you meet a grizzly bear. You've probably heard that term, if it's black, fight back. For a grizzly bear, get into the fetal position. If you do play dead, they say, don't get up too soon.
What happens is people play dead, and after a minute or so they sit up. The bear's still there watching to say, hey, did I do a good enough job reducing the threat the first time? And when the person sits up, they come back in and the attack starts again. And a lot of times the second time is much worse than the first.
And if you are in the backcountry, always carry bear spray. Folks in Missoula witnessed the Garden City's favorite bird up close as researchers are tracking the health and ecosystem of Osprey. Those with the Montana Osprey Project are currently banding Osprey. The public got a chance to see the process to gain some perspective about these birds and how they're trying to protect them.
Basically map the mercury and other heavy metal loads in the aquatic system by using osprey nests, which, you know, nest pretty frequently across the river. So we can almost use them as like a localized sample of how the contaminants in the river are there.
So the Montana Osprey Project doing long-term research in Montana's upper Clark Fork tributaries. Still to come on tonight's MTN 9 o'clock news. Ahead of the mission over Malmstrom, we'll meet a Great Falls native who is now a commander at an Air Force base. But first, Bob, how's the weather looking out there?
It's been a night of severe thunderstorms in south central Montana, and some places are getting half-dollar size hail. But what about out in the west? Well, things are actually starting to shape up out there. We'll have more on that after the break.